Let me just turn.
Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host. First up, the guy who was just making all that noise while I was talking, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing awesome, Mike. Just getting home.
Oh, Anthony, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm doing great.
Thought you slipped off the boat. And as always, our NFL beat writer, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so there's nothing going on. Show's over. We'll be back in 6 months. I'm just kidding. But we're going to talk a little NFL news, and we're going to start off with one big offseason question for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It has been answered as general manager Kevin Colbert will be back for another season. Do you like this, Sam?
I mean, look, with him, it's a very give-and-take situation because he'll do something insanely stupid like sign Dante Moncrief, who I think appeared for like 3 games this year and dropped the majority of the passes he was throwing. And then he'll go around and like trade up in the draft and get someone who's good like Devin Bush, or he'll make a move for Minka Fitzpatrick, which works out well for the defense. So he does some stuff that's good, but at the same time, I feel like Pittsburgh's been stuck in a rut for a number of years now, and nothing that he's done has gotten us out of that spot. And right now, especially with Big Ben being where he's at and the offense having some questions at receiver and running back, I just don't feel like keeping Kevin Colbert is going to be the answer for them moving forward. They can't keep doing this. Ben's only got 1 or 2 more years left. And I don't think he's the right guy to bring the Super Bowl.
I would also like to say that I'm going to call him Kevin Colbert no matter what, because I don't like Stephen Colbert. Anthony, what do you think?
I don't hate the move for the Steelers bringing Kevin Colbert back, but it's been a while since the Steelers made it to the Super Bowl or made a deep playoff run. And this is the same regime with Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger. So at some point, I think you need to pull the plug. I think they're going to give it, if they're going to bring Big Ben in another year, I think when Big Ben goes, that's maybe when they make the move off the GM.
Yeah, but I think right now, when you look at the Steelers, this team is kind of the tipping point, I think, Sam, because you've got, are they going to re-sign Bud Dupree? You've got defensive tackle Jason Hargrave, and then you've got the question about Big Ben. And if Big Ben's not the quarterback, who is? Because no matter how many times the Steelers say that they're happy with their quarterback situation, there's no way they can be happy with that situation.
No, they can't be. You don't Ben gets hurt basically every year for a certain amount of time. And at this point, with how old he is, coming off a year in which he only appeared in 2 games, you have to wonder, when is Ben going to break down this year? And then who are you going to put in? You're going to throw in Duck Hodges again? You're going to put Mason Rudolph back in again? You cannot be happy with where you are in the quarterback situation and not having an immediate successor there, or you're not even having a veteran quarterback as a backup there. And the way I view it is, when Ben leaves, this whole thing's probably going to fall apart. Even the defense is good. The offense is nowhere right now. So I view it as either Pittsburgh is going to get their stuff together and make maybe a run here, which I don't think they will do, but maybe they could do it in the next year or 2. And then after that, it's just all going to fall apart. And Kevin Colbert's probably going to walk away at the end of all that and just leave Pittsburgh nowhere.
Yeah. So I think the Steelers definitely have issues. And when you look at the AFC North, you got Lamar Jackson, John Gruden at 1. You got Joe Burrow will probably be the quarterback for the Bengals. The Cleveland Browns will perpetually look like they're about to make a move. But I think Pittsburgh is at a point here where last place could be on the horizon if they don't do something major, Anthony.
I mean, the Steelers were right in the mix on their 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks, and the one good move by the general manager, and I talked about this all season long. The corresponding move to losing Big Ben was going out and getting Minka Fitzpatrick. And what I think we're seeing here, we're seeing the Steelers shift back to a defensive football team, trying to run the football. There's no Antonio Brown. I don't know if Juju's a true number one or not. They have a whole bunch of maybe 2 and 3 wide receivers. Moncrief was a terrible signing, like Sam alluded to. But I think that's what they're trying to go back to. And Big Ben's final years is try to have more of a defensive football team and not have Big Ben throw the ball 45 times a game.
Yeah, but they don't have
And I
that.
don't hate it. I don't hate it with that defense.
I do, because you can't win that way. You don't have Big Ben. I mean, Big Ben's not going to be what he was when they had that defensive team. And with the injuries, there's a lot of issues. You don't have the kind of running backs you had back then. You don't have the wide receivers you had back then. So I don't see, no matter how good they are defensively.
What did they have at wide receiver back then?
Plaxico Burress, Hines Ward. Hines Ward's a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you said that.
it.
Well, he is. There's no doubt
But
he's a Hall of Fame wide
but
receiver.
Hines isn't Antonio Brown. He wasn't
No,
that type of
whoa,
wideout.
come on. So you're telling me you would rather have Antonio Brown over Hines Ward?
Well, they're two different type of players.
No,
Antonio
they're
Brown
two different type of players. One of them has got mental issues. The other one is a great receiver who's also one of the best blocking wide receivers
Yes,
that ever
and that's
lived.
where I was going to. Two different players.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. If I told you right now you had to start a team and you can have a prime Hines Ward or a prime Antonio Brown, who are you taking?
Probably Ward. I that's why it's like I kind of stopped myself. But were they passing the ball all over the place back then?
Well, ask the Arizona Cardinals in that Super Bowl, because that's what
that
won them the game.
defense was outstanding. And how far away is this defense that's going to line up in 2020 from that talent?
Way
When you're
far away
talking
from
about
that
guys
talent.
like Hayden Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt, one of the best young defensive players in the league, Hayward, they're stacked on defense. And if they can get a running back who can stay healthy, because I don't think James Conner is special like some people do. And there's some running backs available when you're talking about Gordon, Eckler, Kareem Hunt. He's a restricted free agent, but you can get him.
Why would you want him?
I mean, barring that, I know you're going to keep going to the off-the-field issues, but outside of that,
Well, you're
Kareem
right.
Hunt's a
We
really,
won't
really
worry
good
about
running
the
back.
beating up the girlfriend and stuff. Let's see. I would say this. When you look at the Super Bowl 43 Steelers, just the fact that Dick LeBeau was the defensive coordinator makes them a better defense back then. But James Harrison wasn't bad either. And James Ferrier was a stud. Larry Foote was a really good inside linebacker. Lamar Woodley was a hell of a player.
I'm not tearing down that defense. I just don't think this one is that far away.
I think it is. I mean, you had one of the greatest safeties of all time. I mean, the corners were good. Ike Taylor could be shaky from time to time. The defensive line was extremely good. And when you look in the backfield, dude, Willie Parker was a lot better than James Conner.
Right.
Santonio Holmes.
More stable running back.
Yeah. Santonio Holmes, Hines Ward, Nate Washington. You had Heath Miller at tight end. I mean, the offensive line was very good. You had a guy like Max Starks there at tackle. I mean, I think it's a push, because the only way you can win with just defense, I mean, look at the Buffalo Bills. That's kind of your ceiling. At least the Bills have a young quarterback and a lack of offensive weapons where they can build that up. And I think this, with Pittsburgh, there's not enough there, no matter how good the defense is, for Big Ben Roethlisberger to take this team on a Super Bowl run. And if you can't win the Super Bowl, why screw around with it? Why not just blow it up right now and get this thing straightened out within the next 2 or 3 years, possibly?
But isn't
Well,
that
that's
what
really
if they're transitioning to a defensive team, isn't that almost blowing it up?
No, because your offense is already destroyed. So you have to build the offense, because you got to have some offense to win a Super Bowl.
But you're talking about an offense with third, fourth string quarterbacks
7.5 games last year.
Yeah.
They're going to get Big Ben back.
Oh, God. How do you know that? I don't think we know that. He played 2 games last year. I think there's a good chance you get Big Ben back, and a game into the season, Big Ben's gone again. We don't know that. He's old. I mean, come on. We looked at him. He was fat. He was out of shape. And he's talked about retirement for the last 3 years.
Okay, so let's say they move off of Big Ben. Big Ben doesn't come back. We all know it's not going to be Hodges or Rudolph. And there's a lot. I feel like a lot of quarterbacks, when you're talking about promising incoming rookies, whether you're talking about the potential availability of a Cam Newton or an Andy Dalton, maybe they can, if need be, Phillip Rivers, call Eli up if you can guarantee him a starting job.
Eli's not coming back to play football. And when you look at this, why are you just going to get...
Eli would come back if he was guaranteed a starting job.
I don't think Eli comes back if he's guaranteed a starting job. I think Eli is done. Eli doesn't seem like a guy to me that has to play football. Big Ben is a guy that has to play football. And I don't see where Phillip Rivers helps anything because you still have an old quarterback. I mean, you can't win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. It's happened like 3 times in 54 Super Bowls. So if you want this team to be a success, unless you're telling me that you're going to hope the defense can get you to 8-8 while you try to find a quarterback for a year or two, this is a team that no matter how great an upgrade Minkah Fitzpatrick was, you also traded away a first-round pick that may have been able to get you that quarterback.
Well, here's another thing. The contract situations aren't great either. Over the next 2 or 3 years, Pittsburgh's really going to have to start making some calls on players like Joe Hayden and Cameron Hayward and Alejandro Villanueva. So they're going to have to start making decisions here financially, what they're going to do. And that's going to make things worse, honestly, because you have high-paid players on your roster right now. So you're not rebuilding. You're somewhere in the middle. And the guys you have on your roster right now are not good enough to get you to the Super Bowl level that you need to be at.
Anthony?
I don't know. I just don't think they're as far away as you guys go. I just don't.
How can you not be far away when you have no offense? Because
we're just
go ahead. Sorry.
We're assuming Big Ben's not coming back. Is that
I'm assuming he comes back and he's just old, fat, and bloated and been talking about retiring for 2 or 3 years. That to me does not seem like a guy that's going to go win you a Super Bowl.
Because a competent quarterback that's not Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges,
hell no,
all of a sudden takes Juju Smith-Schuster and upgrades him. Because Juju has a lot of talent.
Sure he does.
And so does James Washington.
No. I don't think they
Deontay
do.
Johnson.
I don't think that those 3 guys are the answers either. I think there are serious problems in Pittsburgh on the offensive side of the ball. And, the cap situation was addressed. If you look at that, that's a lot of offensive linemen that are going to be coming up. And if you lose 1 or 2 of those offensive linemen, then you're to the point where you got to rebuild the offensive line also. But if you sign those offensive linemen, it's hard to find the money to be able to sign the other guys. I mean, you also, who's replacing Bud Dupree?
Probably going to draft another linebacker.
All right, so now you just redid that because Bud Dupree was a bust for his first few years. Am I saying this right, Sam? He was a bust for a few years.
No, you're right.
When he gets to his contract season, he's a bad dude. So you can't afford to risk paying him what he wants. You're going to have to probably let him go. And now we have to draft a linebacker, and we have to draft a linebacker with what round of pick because we have no first-round pick. So now you've just decreased the greatness of your defense. And on offense, you've still got an old quarterback, a second-tier running backs, a second-tier wide receivers, and an offensive line that's all getting ready to go into contract years, and you're going to have to pay them at some point to keep them. To me, this looks like a situation where if it's not blown up now, what's going to happen is when they try to fix it, they're going to end up blowing it up 2 years from now. They're going to end up costing Mike Tomlin his job because they're not giving him the parts to be successul. And then you've got to rebuild that.
All I know is that the Pittsburgh Steelers play in the AFC North. Yeah. And you have the Bengals, you have the Browns, and, the Ravens are really good, but Pittsburgh played them tough in 2 games.
It's a division. I mean, the Cardinals played the 49ers tough in 2 games. What the hell does that mean? I mean, you see everybody all the time. You got to play them tough.
Maybe if Mason Rudolph doesn't get knocked out of that second game, maybe they come back and win. I don't know.
Against who? The Ravens?
Yeah.
You talking about the game where the Ravens played RG3 and the backups and beat them?
Was that the second or the first game?
That was the second game. And the other thing is this. Baker Mayfield, I would rather have Baker Mayfield right now than Ben Roethlisberger. Just because of age. And I would rather have Joe Burrow right now than Ben Roethlisberger.
What about Teddy? Teddy Bridgewater could be available.
Teddy Bridgewater could be available. But then, Sam, the question is this. If you got to pay a bunch of money to Teddy Bridgewater, what happens to the offensive line? Because you're going to have to not pay somebody somewhere if you pay a quarterback a lot of money.
Well, yeah, if you pay Teddy Bridgewater, it means automatically that you're getting rid of Ben Roethlisberger, basically. It automatically means you're getting rid of him, and you're having to look at that offensive line, and you're making roster decisions and roster cuts to try to clear out some money. Because, I mean, realistically, you're at the point where you are too cap-strapped to pay guys in free agency. Not that Pittsburgh does that much anyways, but you're too cap-strapped to get guys in free agency. You don't have a good draft pick to rebuild. So basically, you're stuck with the guys you have right now, who are either mediocre young players or are aging veterans. So 2 years down the line, you're going to have mediocre guys in their prime, and you're going to have high-paid veterans past their prime. And you're still not going to have any cap space, and you're still not going to have the high draft picks you need. So at this point, it's kind of like you have to do something. Something has to give here. But I think Pittsburgh's probably just going to settle in and not do much.
Anthony, have we convinced you yet?
No. But, we can go on all day. We can just see what happens this offseason, what they do at quarterback.
All right, so let's go to the Dallas Cowboys. What's your take on Mike Nolan as being a defensive coordinator, Anthony?
I think that was something that was happening from the get-go. Mike Nolan was attached to Mike McCarthy, and I think it was an inevitable move. I don't hate it. Would I rather go out and get Wade Phillips, who's available? Absolutely. But I don't, Mike Nolan was a failure as a head coach, but he was a pretty good defensive coordinator at times. And they also brought in Thomas Sulo, another failure at head coach. But again, he's a defensive line coach now. So I don't mind Nolan or Thomas Sulo or any of the other staff that they're hiring.
All right, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, with the Cowboys are in an interesting spot right now with their defense because so many of their defensive guys are free agents. I think you guys might have talked about this the day I wasn't here. I think you did a free agency recap, but there's a lot of guys on defense who are free agents, and honestly, they underachieved this year with how many pieces they had on defense. So I think changing some things around that to the ball is probably a smart move.
Yeah, because you got Byron Jones, Robert Quinn, Collins, Sean Lee. Of course, we got to see what happens with Leighton Vander Esch. Hopefully he'll be fine to play. I don't know, because Jim Tomsula, even though he was a massive failure as a head coach, I think is one of the best defensive line coaches in football. I don't think Mike Tomlin's a great hire, but I do like Jim Tomsula, so I'll give you that, Anthony.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very indifferent about it. I'd rather have Wade. That's the move I would have went.
I don't know if Wade's the answer here, though. You got to have a certain type of players on defense, and I think with the Rams, what you had was, make the big signing, from the guy from Jacksonville, Jamal Adams, and I think what people were missing was Adams did not fit the way Wade Phillips likes to play defense. And some of these guys got old. They lost some guys from Wade Phillips' defense. So I think Wade kind of got thrown under the bus there because, let's face it, McVay's offense wasn't that good. Yeah, because McVay's offense wasn't that good either. They needed a scapegoat. They used Wade Phillips as that scapegoat. I'm not a huge Mike Nolan fan here, which I think makes it a good thing, Sam, that he goes to Dallas.
Yeah, they might lose to the Jets again. You never know.
I guarantee you this. They will not lose to the Jets this year.
Well, unless they play in the Super Bowl. Then there's a shot.
Now,
right?
see, right there, I just set it up so you would say that. And right now we're going to take a cut from that, and we're going to use it during the show next year, too, and say, look, Anthony predicted the Jets and the Cowboys will play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah?
No.
Why not?
Definitely not the Jets. Maybe Dallas.
Oh, geez. Why maybe Dallas? I mean, they can't even figure out who their quarterback's going to be. They got all these guys to sign. And since we're talking...
But the offseason's going to go. They're going to sign guys, and then I'll start getting my confidence back because I really, really like the Mike McCarthy hire.
I know. He's a great coach. I love the way that...
At one time, he was known as or viewed as the best play caller in the NFL.
No, he wasn't. He was viewed that way by Green Bay Packer fans and people that don't know what the hell they're looking at. But other than that, I would say no. Sam, did you ever view him that way?
I never knew that was such a thing. I never knew that was the way he was perceived.
Yeah. I could think of other guys in 2008, 2009 I would have taken ahead of him. But let's go ahead and let's look a little bit at NFL draft. We're going to look at the quarterbacks today, how many guys we think may go in the first round. I think that it's obvious that the whole world wants Joe Burrow to say he doesn't want to be a Cincinnati Bengal, but it seems from the quotes from his dad today that that's simply not true. So I assume Joe Burrow goes to Cincinnati. Who's the second quarterback off the board here, Sam? Is it Tua?
I think it's Tua. I think based on what you saw in college, we talked about some of the issues with Justin Herbert in the past with reading defenses and things like that. I do think Tua is the guy you have to go to just because he's had the success even with the injuries. I still think he's a guy you can build around and he's a guy you can work with going forward.
All right. So do we think he goes to the Miami Dolphins, Sam?
Yeah, that's where I have him going right now. I think he's going to go to Miami. The only question is, does someone try to trade up ahead of Miami and get him? I think Miami is at number 5 right now, I'm pretty sure, in the draft. So the only issue would be potentially if someone tries to trade with Detroit or the Giants to try to go up and get Tua. I do think the Dolphins will get him, though.
All right. Anthony, do you agree that's where the Dolphins go, or do you think somebody – how about this? Do you think there's any teams that could try to trade up to get Tua?
There's always the possibility for a team like, Carolina, depending on what they do with Cam. But I don't know if I'm too convinced that the Dolphins necessarily – attack the quarterback position because I think it's significant that they are going to retain Ryan Fitzpatrick and they brought in Chan Gailey and they have that connection, I believe, from Buffalo. So I do see a situation where they're going to keep building this team for another year, throw Fitzpatrick out there. It doesn't mean that they don't maybe draft a quarterback and let him sit. But with all their draft picks, I don't know. I just kind of see Flores going in another direction.
Sam?
Because Miami does hold a lot of cards, and that's a very valuable pick.
Yeah, Miami could. I mean, here's the thing. Miami could also potentially trade back from that spot and just recoup even more assets there in the first round. They could do that as well. But it's very interesting. I think they need to get a quarterback. I just don't know. You could tank for like Trevor Lawrence, I guess, technically, but you would be admitting basically by not taking a quarterback that you're okay with having another downtrodden season, basically. So if you're willing to stomach that and basically play to not win this next year, then don't take a quarterback.
Well, I don't think they're ready to do that just because of the fact that it looks like the New England Patriots are finally starting to drop off a little bit, and there is an opportunity in the AFC East, Anthony.
Yeah, there is. But are the Miami Dolphins, is Tua the player? You draft him at 5. and you're just going to go on this run in 20. I think 2021 is the target for Miami.
Well,
You know, it wouldn't surprise me if Miami traded back one spot with the Chargers. Maybe the Chargers want a guy like Tua, and they think Miami's going to get him, and Los Angeles jumps him.
well, I think another team we could see trade up for him would be the Indianapolis Colts. Sam, is that crazy?
No, you're perfectly in line with that because you talked about Jacoby Brissett back when we were doing the quarterback rankings, and he kind of started off the season a little hot, and then the second half of the season he was just terrible. Everything fell apart for Indianapolis. And frankly, he didn't look like a starting quarterback in the second half of the year. So the Colts are a team that could conceivably try to make a run for a quarterback here, because even if you have a rookie quarterback and he doesn't play the entire first year, you still have Brissett who can fill in the gap a little bit there. I definitely think the Colts are a team that can make a run here and try to get a quarterback. They might even sit where they are, just take a quarterback at they're like right outside the top 10, I believe, which you could see a guy falling to that spot. So I think they could get a guy at their spot, or they could trade up to get one.
Yeah, and my answer to that question is this. If the Miami Dolphins have a chance to get Tua, they need to take Tua because he is a guy that can make them go on a long, successful run. If he recovers 100% from this injury, I think he is every bit as good as Joe Burrow, possibly. Put it that way. Because really, at the start of the year, I was wanting the Bengals to lose all their games to get Tua, until I saw Joe Burrow a few weeks in. So I think that's the guy there. And I think the guy that's the big outlier here, there's two of them, and that's Justin Herbert and Jordan Love. And the reason I say that is these are guys that if teams like the Colts and Panthers stay put, they could possibly get one of these two guys. And it's going to be really, I think, Sam, dependent on what the Chargers do, and if the Chargers take either Herbert or Love off the board right away.
Yeah, because the Chargers are sitting at that sixth spot, one spot behind Miami. So we're going to learn a lot about this quarterback draft class at the very top of that draft in the first 10 picks. Basically, it's where most of the stuff's going to be decided with those top three quarterbacks. Because you're going to Burrow at 1, obviously. I agree, Miami should take 2 at 5. And then you got the Chargers right there at 6. And I think Justin Herbert could be the 6th pick. I don't believe he should be taking that high in the draft, but we know how quarterbacks are. They usually move up higher than they should be. So I think you could totally see Herbert going at 6, and then that leaves teams like Indianapolis or like Carolina with the decisions to make about what they do moving forward.
All right, Anthony, what do you think?
It seems like the teams that are neediest at quarterback are bunched up from Miami at 5, Chargers 6, Panthers 7. Then you scroll back a little bit. You know, you ask yourself, are the Jaguars, are they comfortable with Foles and Minshew? Another wild card here, and this is a team with a couple of first-round picks. This is a team that seems to be trying to – we always hear rumors about Derek Carr. Is there a chance maybe the Raiders package up there first and go up and draft Tua or Herbert?
Yeah, I think with Tua that's possible. With Herbert, I think it would be stupid, Sam, but this is the Oakland Raiders we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't – like, Tua's the guy I think you could totally trade up to get, and that makes sense to me. When I look at Herbert, he's not a guy I'm willing to give up a lot of picks because you would have to give up a substantial amount of draft capital or players to get up there to get Herbert in that top, 10 range. And I don't see him being the kind of guy you do that for. And I agree. If the Raiders did that, they'd be downgrading from Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is infinitely better than Justin Herbert.
And he always will be.
We haven't, the combine changes a lot of things, especially for quarterbacks.
No, especially for the Raiders. I mean, that's what the Raiders are known for, is seeing stuff at a combine. I mean, because really for quarterbacks, the combine should never change anything at all, ever. I mean, if you're going and watching a quarterback at a combine throw in shorts and a T-shirt to unguarded wide receivers, and you're going to read anything out of that, you're an idiot. That's just my take on it. I want to watch the film. I want to watch what happens when there's bullets flying all around him. Can the kid play when there's bullets flying? Because anybody can stand out there and throw in their shorts and T-shirt, and nobody's going to hit him and look good. And if they don't, I really don't care because they're probably not paying attention because it's stupid anyways. I don't like the NFL Combine.
I can tell.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a waste of time for a quarterback. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, really, who cares if he can throw to an open wide receiver? And if there's teams that are waiting for the NFL Combine to judge these guys on whether they want to take them or not, they're stupid. I mean, have you ever seen Tom Brady's Combine film? Have you seen Tom Brady's Combine picture of him in his shorts and his T-shirt running his 5.3 40?
Yeah.
But you go back and watch the Orange Bowl of 2000 against Alabama, and if you watch that instead of listening to what people were saying about him because of the Combine, you would have realized from watching that film that this guy was going to be an NFL quarterback. You wouldn't have realized that he was going to be maybe the greatest NFL quarterback ever, but he looked like an NFL quarterback in pads. Out of pads, he didn't, Anthony.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Dak was a 4th-round pick. Brady was, what, a 6th or 7th-round pick? Romo undrafted, Warner undrafted.
Yeah, but the thing about Warner and Romo, the reason they were undrafted is they were playing in the Gateway Conference, or whatever they call it now, at Eastern Illinois and Northern Iowa, and people don't take them real seriously. Tom Brady played at Michigan and, you know, played his best game in the Orange Bowl, and people still judged him off of that Combine. You think?
I mean, the Patriots missed him in 5 rounds, the first 5 rounds.
Well, I know, just like the 49ers missed Joe Montana the first 2 rounds, but it doesn't matter how many rounds you miss him as long as you get him. You know, the Cincinnati Bengals picked John Ross, and Patrick Mahomes went next.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, 27 NFL teams passed on Dan Marino. And there was 3 or 4 other quarterbacks taken before Dan Marino. So, I mean, this happens all the time where people read too much stuff into things that don't matter. The only thing that matters is when the helmet's on, when the bullets fly. And I can tell you this, when the helmets are on and the bullets fly, Justin Herbert is not a first-round draft pick. Jordan Love is not a first-round draft pick. And, I mean, the thing that stands out to me is Jordan Love. I mean, this is a kid that threw 20 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. But as a pro prospect, everybody loves him because he's got all the tools. But they missed the fact that almost half the time, he threw the ball to the other team instead of throwing a touchdown. I don't get the Jordan Love thing. I know he looks awesome. And when you look at his 40 time, he runs a 4.7. He's got big arms. He's got big hands. He looks like a prototypical quarterback, especially the ones you get today because everybody's looking for the next Patrick Mahomes. This kid ain't that. And somebody is going to pick him in the first 15 picks and set themselves back 2 or 3 years, Sam. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I agree with you there. And the crazy thing is I'm seeing stuff out here, and again, some of these supposed experts who are saying things like Jacob Eason or Jake Fromm can move up into the first round. Like, that's just as crazy, though. To me, I think there's only 2 first-round quarterbacks in this draft, and that's Joe Burrow and that's Tua. Those are the 2 first-round quarterbacks. But as many as 4 or 5 guys could go in the first round here if teams are crazy enough to buy into this hype around these guys. I don't see it. I mean, I think Joe Burrow and Tua.
Well, I think this. Jacob Eason, he's 6'6", 227. They all love that. But he has limited experience. He's raw. And, I mean, his instincts aren't good. As a passer, he has some things to work on, including putting more air under the ball in some passes, throwing a softer, more catchable ball. Now, when that is what I tell you about a guy, that guy is a 4th-round pick. He's Dak Prescott, and maybe he figures it out real quick when he gets there and becomes a good quarterback. Jake Fromm is a guy that I actually generally like, but he's not a first-round quarterback. But I can tell you this, I would take Jake Fromm over Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, or Jacob Eason.
Yeah,
Because,
I like Fromm myself. That, you know, they said he's an efficient quarterback. He has the intangibles. He's a little shorter, doesn't really have the arm, but you know, he could be that gem that you can get in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round.
yeah, but he's not, because he's going to be a gem that you probably have to take by the end of the 1st round, especially if 3 of these quarterbacks or 4 of these quarterbacks go in the first 12, because then somebody's going to freak out and do something stupid, because they always do. And when I look at this, Jalen Hurts is a guy that I think some people may sleep on a little bit that I think would be worth a shot for the Pittsburgh Steelers in like the 3rd or 4th round, Sam.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And honestly, I'm okay with that. But at the same time, if I'm looking at Pittsburgh and their draft history, it's been like Landry Jones in the 4th round, Josh Dobbs in the 4th round, and then Mason Rudolph in the 3rd. So for me, a little bit, it's kind of wasteful at this point to take the quarterback that low. But there is something with Jalen Hurts because he's had success and he's won games in college. He's done it in a certain way that I haven't seen from any other quarterbacks Pittsburgh's taken those low rounds. So I do agree. There's some intrigue there, and definitely if they take him, I'm not going to be mad about it, but I wouldn't get my hopes up too much.
Well, I would say this.
Anyway.
The difference between him and the guys you just mentioned is that he's at least an athlete. You know, he can make something happen at some point. And I know I'm always the guy screaming for a pocket passer, but if you got a team with a great defense, it doesn't hurt to have a guy that can move the ball. He is a winner. I really don't think he's going to be a great NFL quarterback, but I think he's worth taking a shot on. Another guy I think is worth taking a shot on possibly would be Florida International's James Morgan, which nobody brings up, and I think he's better than most of the guys we've already brought up too. Have you seen him at all, Sam?
I have not seen him.
Okay.
Is it Florida International?
Yeah. And he's not bad.
I haven't seen him.
But I think overall, quarterbacks here, there's 2 guys that are studs. There's 5 or 6 guys that might possibly end up being average starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So I don't think it's a real high. There should be 2 guys picked in the 1st round, but there will probably be 5 by the time this is done, Sam. You think it's safe to say?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say 4 or 5 are going to go. The only thing that gives me pause about saying a lot of guys are going to go is that Drew Lock somehow didn't go in the 1st round last year, and I thought almost assuredly some team was going to panic and take him early in the 1st round, and they didn't. So that makes me think there's a chance that maybe it'll just be 3 or 2 guys, but at the same point, it's the NFL.
Well, you know what I think? I think this. It seems like almost every year somebody panics and takes a guy, whether it's Tim Tebow or whoever, Johnny Manziel, higher than what they should. Last year they didn't, so that tells me that that's probably not going to happen twice in a row, Anthony.
No, definitely not. I don't see it.
All right, anything else we want to talk about before we wrap it up, guys?
No, I think we got everything.
All right. You guys want to tell everybody where they can hear you? Start with Anthony.
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru, and you can follow my show at The FF Face Off. We can be found at all the top social media and podcast platforms.
2 minutes, or I can call you right back.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Sam_Teets33 on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, so feel free to check those out. I'm constantly posting plenty of articles and stats. So stop them by and check those out.
All right. Did everybody get that there? I actually had a phone call. It was the president, so I had to take it. What? The president calls me all the time.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And also, I want to remind you, today at 2:30, in less than an hour, you can hear live the NHL Weekly Show of me and Sam McGinnis. At 3:30, we will have Indiana Basketball Weekly, where we'll preview the Indiana basketball game coming up against the Purdue Boilermakers. That'll be myself and Ken Sterling at 3:30, so I'm going to be busy today. But for now, for Anthony Cervino, Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.